Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Wisdom Save podcast. As always, I'm Ken.
I'm still Hannah.
And today, actually, we have a fun little podcast idea that Hannah has been cooking up recently. One that I'm actually really excited about. Something that we were kind of doing a test run for here today. And we want to see if this is like something that has legs enough to be a full-fledged series, and something that maybe we could continue doing more and more of. So, Hannah, would you like to introduce the general topic, and we can talk a little bit about how it came about before we jump into it?
Well, it didn't really come about except for I was like, oh man, that'd be neat.
Right.
So there's really not a story behind that. But,
Sure.
Mainly, what I was thinking was, it was also an excuse to like get more information out of characters that I wanted to know more about. I was thinking for as long as it goes well and if people enjoy it.
Right.
I wanted to start interviewing PCs and DMPCs and like all the people you play in our D&D campaigns.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're gonna do that.
Yeah. So basically, the general idea that she originally pitched to me is she's like, well, what if we did like character interviews?
Oh, but yeah, Ken's gonna do it all in character. Like,
Right.
I'm not gonna just ask you questions about characters. Like,
right. Yeah. It's not that's the thing that was kind of interesting about this is when she first pitched it to me, I thought, oh, okay. Well, I mean, like, I know a lot of stuff about my characters. Like, I know my NPCs and then like the characters that they sort of adopted and brought along with them in their party, like, which are kind of more the characters we're going to focus on, the characters that were like with some of their adventuring group for a really long time, and characters that you have like already heard about for those of you who follow the D&D content on this podcast. We're going to be starting off with, and probably for a little while, focusing on members of the Wyrmtamers.
not necessarily.
Not necessarily, right? But I figured at least this one.
Yeah.
This one is a member of the Wyrmtamers.
So anyone that's watched our D&D compilations or like explanations of our characters before will recognize.
Yeah. You've already been introduced to all of these characters that we could be picking from a pool of like to talk about or talk through, at least the ones that we have like figured out so far. You've already kind of learned a little bit about them through some of our like D&D backstories, some of our other episodes where we talked about our campaigns and some of the things that we've done like as a collective. But now it's kind of like the added twist to this is like I'll kind of step away from it and jump basically fully into character, and it'll be like done interview style, but from the perspective of the actual character.
Mm-hmm.
So I will do my absolute best. I have the accents of the characters down, but not everything can be perfect.
Right.
As you'll see with this one, so not to spoil it, but you probably will have already seen it in the title. Today we're going to be interviewing my character Melisana.
Mm-hmm.
So jury's out on whether or not through the audio I'll be able to put on the convincing voice of a adult woman, but I will try my very best.
I mean, he at least does it for a little while every week.
That's true. Or at least did it for a little while. Oh, yeah, but now with Aria.
I was going to say, you still do play adult women.
And with there's lots of women NPCs
like,
that I play.
So obviously, it's not going to be perfect. That's why they don't have people that play characters on TV most of the time, like not playing their opposite genders.
Or like when they do, it's done for like dramatic or exaggerated effect, like Tina in Bob's Burgers.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, some people can like really get it. But also, like, I'm sure he doesn't have a range of women's voices he does.
Sure, that's a good point.
I mean, unless he does, and I'm just flat out wrong.
I kind of have been working on it, but it's definitely one of my weaker points.
I can't do dude voices, but, like, I still play men sometimes.
That is true. But it's interesting because, like, it'll be interesting to see what other people think about it. I mean, not that I think anyone's really going to be judging the accent too much, but it is interesting to think about, like, we've become so used to it, like, when you, like, for example, when you drop into, like, the Asher voice, like, sure, you're not really doing a male voice per se, but, like, that's Asher's voice.
Yeah.
Like,
I can always tell who's talking when you're speaking, regardless of you not actually having a woman's voice.
Right.
But regardless, like we said, we're starting off with Melisana.
Mm-hmm.
Ken also did mention that we have a bunch of characters lined up. That is not true.
Well, okay. I
am completely winging this.
I should definitely clarify. I have a bunch of characters lined up. I have, like, ideas already. When you pitched this to me, I was already kind of thinking about, like, oh, well, I wonder, like, how would this person interview? How would this person interview? So, like, I have ideas. You do whatever you want to do, and I will adjust. But I at least have a short list of, like, ooh, that would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys like this kind of content and you want more, like, really in-depth dive, like D&D storytelling and role-playing content, let us know in the comments, especially if you enjoyed this one, because I think we could definitely do more if you guys are interested.
Right. Like, I already have a few people I want to do next, but I don't know who I'm exactly doing next.
Okay, so you kind of have a list. You think you do.
It's not a list.
Sure.
There's, like, pieces of paper with names written on them, and they're all flying in the wind, and I will grab one eventually.
Okay, because I'm going to say, like, what is a list then if it's not a piece of paper?
I said a bunch of pieces of paper.
Oh, okay. I see. So it's just like, it's a grab bag of ideas for you as opposed to, like, a formal list.
As the next recording session closes in, I will grab a piece and be like, yeah.
We're doing this one.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Also, I don't know if we're going to be doing this weekly with me, or if it's going to be, like, semi-weekly, or if it's just going to be, like, once a month.
Yeah. It's kind of like what we talked about in our last episode.
It depends on how well it's received.
Right, yeah. This is going to be the year, and especially this month, is going to be a time to kind of, like, test new ideas for the podcast and see what things stick. So I'm just interested to hear about feedback to this one, and if you guys like it a lot, we could turn it into like a bi-weekly thing. Whenever it comes around to Hannah's turn, we can do, like, it for a little while and then jump to other things, kind of intersperse it sporadically. It really depends on, how we feel about it, how you all feel about it. So we'll see how it goes, but I am excited.
Yeah.
So anyway, despite my excitement, I unfortunately have to step away.
Oh, yeah, Ken's gonna leave.
I, the podcaster Ken, will be leaving, and my dearly beloved High Priestess Melisana will be coming in. So
we'll see how well I do with the interview, because I've never interviewed anyone before. So
I believe in you. You got this.
Okay. We'll see.
Yeah, you think you don't, but you also, like, play a role-playing game with me and other people every week, so you're fine.
We'll see.
You also do a podcast. Like, you're good.
Well, I know, but
you'll be fine.
God knows I'm not professional about it. Like,
that's okay. Nothing about this podcast is professional, really. We just kind of wing it.
Yeah.
And it'll be great.
Okay.
Well, anyway, goodbye, all. I'll probably be back at the end of the episode, but Melisana will be on her way. So.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I guess I'm here for an interview.
That is correct. If you wouldn't mind telling me what your name is.
My name. Okay, we're jumping right into it.
I mean, yeah, we need the name.
Sure. So, hi. I'm, and we have listeners too. Hello, listeners. I'm Melisana. Melisana of Ventris. I'm suppose you could call me the leader of a small island country. There's not a lot of us, but we've certainly made a name for ourselves in the past few decades.
I see. Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? Just, like, how old you are, like, what's it like with your friends?
How old am I? Just recently turned 40. Not that, I'm worried about it, but...
Whew.
But the crows...
Sorry, I thought I was 37 for a second. I'm not.
Oh, no. Yeah, I certainly, I feel good for 40, but, yeah, you can tell those years of adventuring have settled in on my shoulders. The crow's feet are starting to settle in a little bit. If I see a wrinkle, I might lose my mind, but other than that, things are going well.
Hopefully more laugh lines than worry lines.
Well, Maybe we'll get into that.
Oh,
But I
yeah,
think
well-
it'll be a pretty solid balance of both.
We'll get there.
Who am I? Okay, so
You said you're the leader of an island nation.
yeah, specifically my title would be the Sea Star. We're an island nation, very small island nation, located sort of north central of a chain of islands called the Moonshay Isles, right off the Sword Coast of the world of Toro. I believe colloquially referred to by some as Faerun, and others in stories as the Forgotten Realms. But me and my people have managed to carve out a very, very small piece of that land and made it our own. At least, since the days of my great-great-grandfather and his son, and then his son beyond that, and all the way down to me.
So is being the Sea Star what you mainly do as, like, your living?
I suppose, in a sense, that's my job, at least now that, I guess you would call me a retired adventurer. Though I dabble from time to times. It's, once you've bent reality to your will, especially with a group of other people who are capable of doing the same, it kind of becomes hard to ignore small problems when they pop up from time to time.
I see.
But yeah, I would say now, performing my responsibilities and duties as the Sea Star is my job, in a sense. It's sort of a familial thing. We used to be singular rulers of and when I say nation, I mean my island has a couple thousand people at most. Mostly seafaring folk. A lot of sort of hard knock, salt of the earth type of people who brave the high seas. A lot of permanent residents, but most people are out fishing and sailing and exploring for the most part. I used to be, or I should say my father used to be the singular ruler, and I was for the time, but within the last couple of years, I've created the title of Sea Star, sort of to divide up responsibilities and give a little bit more influence to some of my trusted circle of friends and confidants and companions. The Sea Star is kind of just the head of a council of individuals who wisely know a lot more about certain things than I do. I don't feel like it's necessarily practical for one ruler to be responsible for everything, especially when there's some things they don't know how to do. So
is that how? So I'm assuming that it was that way. One person ruling over your home until recently with you.
Yeah, my father, Minsander, was basically responsible for everything. And to be fair, we had a lot less responsibilities. We were kind of an independent island at that time.
That's a chair.
That's okay. I can tell it's been creaking. We were kind of an independent island for a time. We didn't really have any allegiances or alliances, just sort of trade with some of the nations around us. When I met and became very fast friends with a number of individuals from the nation south of us, Highport, specifically from the village of Kelkala, opening up trade and relationships with a number of other places, especially with them, kind of was inevitable. And, councils formed, alliances were made, and now I have a lot more than just my people to help manage.
I see.
So, my father was the head of it when we were mostly just organizing shipping and keeping the people happy and collecting taxes and things like that. But now...
Classic ruler stuff.
Right. The sort of mundane, everyday things. Now we have to worry about diplomatic allegiances and maintaining long-distance trade relations and staying on top of wide-scale global threats. So those sort of things kind of get left with me, where some of my trusted advisors and warriors handle some of the tougher things, like, pirates and stuff.
Seems like your job got a very classic promotion.
Yeah, a promotion that
A promotion to manager that also includes every other manager's jobs.
Yeah, which is why I figured a council would probably be for the best. I mean, I've been on many, many boats in my life, and I've been at the head of a number of major organizations and in front of a lot of responsibilities. But, well, I've never built a ship, so why should I be responsible for, why should I be the master of ships if I've never built a ship? Why not hire a shipbuilder to do it?
Fair enough.
That's my thought process, at least.
Well, enough business talk. Why don't you tell me about your family? Like, do you have any partners, kids? You already told me about your father.
Yes. So, my father, rest his spirit, he passed away just about 10 years ago now. But he was a good man, strong, stoic, sometimes a little bit rough around the edges, but that's what happens when you're a salt of the earth pirate type.
That's what I was. He was a pirate?
Well, pirate type. He never was a pirate per se, but he grew up around pirates and has been responsible. What's the proper term? A privateer, I believe, is the term my husband
fancy
uses.
Pirate. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
husband's also a fancy pirate.
My husband is a privateer now. Admiral of our naval fleet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, privateer, which I think is the fancy and legal word for piracy. It's piracy with a set of rules, which is a badge that he wears pretty proudly.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, my husband Luciano, I met him during my I met him before my adventures. I'm this is a little bit embarrassing, but when I was younger, I definitely developed in my teenage years a little bit of a rebellious streak.
Okay.
I mean, what teenager doesn't? But in particular, one of the things I liked to do was stow away on ships or, take vessels out on my own. And more than a couple times, I sort of developed a tendency of getting myself into trouble.
Yeah, that sounds like troublemaking business.
Yeah.
Stowing away on random ships.
Well, I mean, they were ships of members of my father's fleet and people that I knew, but, as the quote-unquote princess of my nation, probably not the best idea for me to be stowing away on a hard scrabble ship sailing into untested waters. I got myself into trouble a lot. Got myself kidnapped a couple of times by some of the pirates I've mentioned. I met my husband during one of the times that I was rescued from said troublemaking excursion. Got myself captured by a group of pirates, and I was stowed away on a small ruined building on one of the old small islands from way back when the old king used to rule the northern islands. Goodness, now like 70, 80 years ago, I think, was when the king was in charge. But I found myself into some of those old ruined pirate hideouts, and they were planning on ransoming me back to my father, but my husband, who at the time was just the bumbling head of a independent crew of pirate mercenaries,
I see.
Found his way to the island, and for lack of a better term, knocked the crap out of them, and that's how we met. I guess in a weird way, I was kind of captured by him. He's
very nice play on words.
Sort of, yeah. I meant on an emotional level.
Yes.
He did bring me home. It was very sweet that he, unlike many of the other pirates I knew, didn't ask for a ransom. He just wanted to hear about my life and where I was from, which I thought was kind of sweet. He's a bit of a doofus, which I love about him. Gets him into trouble more times than he's willing to admit. But in a way, I kind of found that charming. He was a lot like me. This sense of nobility in his upbringing that turned into a desire to capture his own freedom. In a lot of ways, he was forced into it, but I don't know. I guess I saw a lot in him of the kind of things that I wanted to end up doing, the kind of person that I wanted to be, at least when I was younger. So I ended up getting myself in trouble a few more times, mostly hoping that he would come find me. He always did. Um, After a fashion, they got themselves, him and his crew, got themselves into a few scrapes and got themselves hurt a couple of times, which I felt bad about, but he always reassured me and told me.
They'd probably be doing it regardless.
Right. I mean, that was part of the job, you know? Adventurers get themselves into trouble, they get themselves hurt, but they bandage themselves up and they move on.
You might as well do it for something that's worth it.
Yeah. So that was how we met. Little did I know that years later, after getting myself captured by pirates again and meeting some of my closest and dearest friends.
You got captured by pirates a lot.
At least 5 times. It's possible that I'm forgetting some, but I think it was 5. The last one was the big one. That one I kind of had to get myself out of. We got trapped in the middle of a storm, per se, and shipwrecked on a far northern island. That was where I met some of my dearest friends. Holly, Callista, and Lundquist, and, well, I guess Dagar was there too. You've heard
Not a good friend?
I can only imagine you've heard about him, considering that laugh. Yeah,
oh, they're all on the list to be interviewed except Dagar.
I see. Well, that should say enough about him. But, yeah, that's how I ended up sort of becoming the person I am today. Once he eventually was able to get through the stormy season and bring a boat alongside my father to come rescue me, by that point I had kind of already, gotten myself into some real scraps and solved a couple of small-scale problems in the world and kind of made a name for myself. After that, well, I mean, I don't know if you know anything about the whole cult of the dragon business.
Only vaguely.
Maybe we'll get into that, but we continued adventuring for years and years and beyond that. Ended up getting married and having 2 kids of our own. One before our big war and one afterwards. But my 2 daughters, I could go on about them forever, I suppose, but my oldest is Arya. She's 18 now, getting close to the point where I would be stepping out of the way and she'd be taking charge. She's got natural leadership quality, that one. All the charm of her father, a little bit of the awkwardness of her father, and all of my patience and inborn sense of purpose.
I thought you were going to say the natural beauty.
Well, of course, but I mean, the same could be said about both of my daughters, so. Although, I will say, Arya does kind of take more after me. Senna takes a little bit more after her father. But Senna's my youngest. She's going on 15 now. So, old enough to take care of herself. Between the 2 of them, Arya is definitely more the... I mean, she's tough, but she's definitely more the, I guess, feminine of the 2 of them. Though I hate to use that term. Senna is more of the rough and tumble daughter.
I see.
She's the one that likes to play in the dirt and the mud and run off into the woods and get herself into trouble. Meet wild animals, bring them home. Sometimes they're a little too big to fit in the door, which has been a problem a couple of times.
So we're not talking about frogs or lizards or anything.
Well, sometimes it's mostly frogs and lizards.
But just other times it's bears and stuff?
Yeah, a bear once. We actually, in the high top mountains, getting close to the forests on the eastern side of our island, they actually have, there are giant goats. that live in the really high mountains.
Okay.
She took one of those home. I don't know how in the 9 hells she managed to find it, because she was 12 at the time. Maybe we should not let our daughters roam so far from the house.
At least that one.
At least that one. Arya's, well, usually I find that Arya is pretty good at watching over her sister. She's almost a little bit too focused on babysitting Senna.
Mm-hmm.
Her and Senna kind of fight from time to time about it. Usually it's me or my husband's responsibility to break it up. But yeah, the two of them are kind of a perfect pair as far as sisters go. One of them is the responsible, dedicated, calm, passive type, and one of them is the rough and tumble, energetic, very spirited type. The two of them work well together.
Well, that's good to hear. At least no sisterly fights or anything.
Oh, I mean, they fight, but not like...
To a degree that's unhealthy.
Yeah, not tooth and nail. They get along very well, but Senna does tend to get on Arya's nerves when she intentionally gets herself into trouble and Arya has to bail her out of it. Arya can be very nervous about her sister getting potentially injured, especially when they're out in the woods. And Senna tends to rebel a lot against the rules that Arya sets for her. The rules that I set for her as well, though I think with me she's a little bit more understanding. I think it's just because I'm her mother.
Yeah, as a person with sisters, I can understand the sisterly rebellion.
I definitely think that when it comes down to it, Senna tends to gravitate towards me when she has problems, and Arya tends to gravitate towards her father. I think personality-wise, they're a little bit more similar, whereas Senna's a little bit more similar to me. In some ways. It's like a perfect blend, but when it comes to the really tough emotional stuff, Senna sees things on my level and Arya sees things on Luciano's level.
That's fair enough. But speaking of responsibilities and rules and all the like.
Oh boy.
Do you have anything you do for fun?
Oh, that's not where I expected this question to go at all.
Yeah, exact opposite. Do you have any hobbies or anything you'd like to spend with your, I'm sure, very minimal free time?
I don't have a lot between that and my responsibilities as a priestess. I don't have
a priestess, a sea star, a mother, a wife.
A ship captain, technically, though. The Sea Star's vessel doesn't hit the waters terribly often. But yeah, what do I like to do for fun? Honestly, I enjoy sightseeing quite a lot.
Oh yeah?
I tend to be more attached to the sea than I do to the land. I like walking across the island. Some of the mountain treks the mountains here are a little bit flatter. They rise to somewhat high points towards the center of the mountain ranges, but there's a lot of very good hiking trails. I do like to walk those from time to time and just kind of look out over the island and the ocean beyond that. Think about how small we are compared to everything else in the world. But when I end up out on the ocean, that's when you really get a sense of how minuscule you are. Oh, not a big fan of the ocean, I can tell?
Not a sea person myself.
Oh, well, I mean, I grew up around the ocean and lived my whole life around it, so I can understand why people would find fear in it. There's a lot underneath the ocean.
Oh, God. Not being able to see anything but the ocean.
I sense I've struck a nerve. There's a lot out on the ocean, I suppose, to be afraid of, but there's sort of a beauty in that fear. There's so much you can learn about who you are and what you're supposed to do when you realize just how much of a dot you are on the horizon. A lot of people spend so much time thinking about, did I do this right? did I approach this the right way? Like every little mistake that you make in your life is going to make it or break it. But when you're just a small vessel out on the middle of the vast ocean, those mistakes seem so minuscule, you know? Like, how could a little mistake that you make really be make it or break it when there's so much else in the world? So much more to see, so much more that those ripples of your actions don't even touch. It kind of makes me want to explore it in a real way. You know, despite all of the world that I've seen in my adventuring days, there's still so much more of it. In a weird way, I think that's beautiful and scary. But yeah, I guess
I was gonna say, so that is deep thinking a hobby of yours? Philosophical ponderings?
I guess. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, besides like the occasional fishing voyage or a camping trip in the hills or one of the small islands nearby our home island with the family, I don't really do a whole lot besides take a boat out and sit on the ocean and think.
Huh.
It's like my me time. It's my getaway, you know?
I see. Sounds terrifying.
In a way, I suppose, but if anything, I've certainly learned how to defend myself.
That's fair, that's fair. I have never even taken any like classes like that. Like self-defense.
Well, I mean,
Don't know how you're supposed to self-defend from like a whale or a shark anyway.
if we get a chance to talk about my responsibilities with the priesthood, maybe you'll get a better sense of exactly how I would deal with a problem like that.
That's fair.
It's a little hard to explain, but...
Speaking of all of my fun little phobias.
Sure.
Do you have any weird pet peeves?
Oh no. Pet peeves. Yeah,
Everyone has them.
I suppose. I don't mind doing favors for people, but one of the things that really annoys me is when someone else says they can handle something and then doesn't. That kind of drives me nuts. On a macro scale, it happened a few times during my adventuring days. But mostly, I guess I'm just referring to my husband and my children around the home.
Say they'll do laundry, they don't do laundry.
Aria's very good about things like cleaning her room and doing laundry. Senna is very good about, well, the phrase, what's the point in cleaning it if I'm just going to get it dirty again, comes up far too often. Sometimes she'll say, yeah, don't worry, I'll do it. I think just to appease me. But, as much as she insists that those dirt spots and mud stains are new, they look the same. I think she just puts on dirty clothes and runs out into the mud intentionally.
Ever, like, put a note in one of her pockets and, like, see if it's there the next time you go to clean it?
Oh, so many times, yeah. She can't get it past me. I guess that's a small pet peeve. As for a big pet peeve, I think the thing that bothers me the most is when people aren't willing to live up to the responsibilities they've put on their own plate.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to explain. I can understand full well if someone was born into, say, like a position of power that they didn't want.
Right.
I think it's okay to say, hey, that's not for me, and go find something else. But there's a certain amount of destiny, I guess, that I just don't think you can ignore.
Okay.
I think in a way it bothers me when people when they run away from destiny or run away from their responsibilities without a good reason.
Okay.
I've known a fair number of cowards in my day, and they always rub me the wrong way. Just, I don't know. I guess if you're someone who can handle, who is strong enough and brave enough to handle the burdens that are out in front of you, why not do it? Why not help? Why not stand for something? Why not fight?
Are we talking about, in particular, people in positions of power? Are you talking about, like, just people in general?
It's... let me be clear. People in positions of power over others have a responsibility to the people that they're in a position of power over, right?
Right.
When those people abandon that responsibility, if it's because that's not the type of person you want to be, fine.
Mm-hmm.
But when the people that you are beholden to are in trouble,
mm-hmm.
and you abandon them for the sake of yourself, I think that's something that it's kind of hard to justify to me, you know?
I understand that.
I can't believe I forgot this one. I also really hate it when people try to manipulate other people.
Oh, yep, I can understand that.
Especially, like, if you want to have a conversation with someone about something and try to come to a mutual understanding, then that's fine. Just be honest with people and be open with them about the way that you're feeling and talk to them. I hate it when people think that they have all the answers and then try to just convince other people that they're right without letting them understand where you're coming from.
Without explaining yourself, or like they just want you to blindly follow them.
Exactly. You know, be honest with the people around you. At least show them the courtesy of that. I guess I guess my pet peeve is cowardly people and mistrustworthy people, or manipulative people, I
People
guess.
doing wrong for the sake of doing wrong.
Yeah, that's kind of a good way to put it. I met a fair number of those in my day. Looking at you, Jentarum.
I was going to say...
They're not going to hear this, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. I don't need any...
I don't think they're blocked from hearing it, but I feel like they have better things to do.
Hopefully.
Or worse things to do.
More likely that.
But you've said a few different times that you went on an adventure.
Oh, I sure did.
What kind of adventure did you go on?
I guess I went on a few.
Other than all the pirate being, like, the kidnappings.
Right. When I got kidnapped and ended up meeting with my regular group, the group that I had been traveling with the longest, I've mentioned their names before. Holly, Lundquist, Callista. Like I said, Dagar was there. But
Holly, Lundquist, Callista.
The other guy. We ended up all aboard the same pirate vessel, captured in one way or another. And somehow, through a stroke of luck and divine intervention, both, really, we found our way along the Sword Coast. We knew we weren't getting back home to the islands because it was one of the worst stormy seasons we'd seen in a while. And we had to wait until the terrible waves and thunderstorms broke before we could hire a vessel back home. So we ended up on the coast, earning a living, doing odd jobs. By that point, we had, weapons and tools and armor that we had scavenged and salvaged from the island, and a means to defend ourselves. So we kind of, I guess, started doing mercenary work. I don't really know how I ended up doing that, but the rest of them seemed pretty on board with it. And by that point, I was an acceptable healer, and they got themselves into trouble more often than I cared to admit. So I was there to help. We ended up solving the problems of a local village, a mining town called Fandolin. Took us months and months, and it all culminated in the end with us going to the ruins of an old forested town and finding a dragon.
Oh.
Which is, looking back on it, it seems so small, but at the time it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. A large, scaled, serpentined behemoth, speaking intelligently and stalking like a predator cat. It could breathe this like noxious gas that withered plants and trees, and it would smash open the side of large stone buildings just by shaking around.
Oh.
Yeah, dragons are terrifying. Again, kind of beautiful in a way, but terrifying.
Like how you feel about the ocean?
Yeah, I guess.
Big, creepy, beautiful.
Yeah, that's kind of a good way to put it. Nonetheless, our group ended up somehow becoming talented enough and lucky enough to end up slaying this malicious dragon that had taken up residence and was terrifying some of the nearby denizens of the forest and the mining town. And, well, somebody suggested, I forget who it was, but somebody suggested that we call our little adventuring band the Wyrmtamers, sort of as a tongue-in-cheek reference to the worm we had tamed, W-Y-R-M, worm, a colloquial term for dragon. And I guess the rest was history after that. We ended up going our separate ways. I got married, had kids, some more dragon-related individuals, cultists, to a dread dragon goddess named Tiamat. Ended up rearing their ugly head, and I sent one of my dearest friends and a family ward of ours, a young noble boy named Kellen, out to go meet up and investigate. He ended up meeting up with a number of my friends, Holly and Lundquist included, and they figured out what the cult was up to and asked me and my husband for help dealing with them. So we came back, situated ourselves in the vast city of Waterdeep along the Sword Coast, and spent the next year and a half of our life working to put the cult down. Just some of the craziest years of my life. I grew a lot. I got injured a lot. And me and my friends banished a god from this material plane.
I see. I was going to say, that was the next question. What was the biggest adventure you've ever been on? But I can only imagine it's banishing the god.
Oh, yeah. Fighting the cult of the dragon. Dealing with some of their allies amongst rogue sects of a thieves and assassins guild called the Jentarim. A country of necromancers called the Red Wizards. A number of people who worked together with this cult to basically, I guess in a way, try to bring about the apocalypse. I don't understand the motivations of doomsday cults, but they seemed to think that what they were doing was a good idea.
I think a lot of them think that after the fact of the doomsday, they'll be able to, live that reality. Or maybe they don't care that they can't.
It's all about power. They just jealously and hungrily crave power because they think it's going to better them in some way. Anyway.
Never really works out that way.
No, and it certainly didn't for them. We had divine luck on our side, me and my, I guess now 15, 16 people strong adventuring group. We kind of became a mercenary company over the course of time. A number of us joined, a number of other individuals who had had their lives misplaced or interrupted by the activities of the cult. We tracked their activities, we interrupted some of their rituals, we dealt with a number of dragons and their riders, but nonetheless, it didn't stop the cult from eventually conducting their ritual and opening a rift between the realms to bring their dread goddess into the world. But the Wyrmtamers were ready.
Well, then, did you think you were going to be this giant, big, like, shot adventurer when you were young, or?
Oh, goodness, no. No, I mean, if you went back to what, like, even, like, 16 or 17-year-old me was thinking, I mean, I thought I was going to eventually be in charge of a fleet of ships and some everyday hardworking people. I would sit on a chair and they would come ask me about grievances and troubles they were having. I would help them solve their problems and tie line on ships, bring in fishing hauls. Mundane but rewarding life. I found a rewarding life, but certainly not a mundane one.
Very different than what you imagined, I can only imagine.
By a lot. Adventuring was,
Not on the agenda.
no, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Some of the most important people in my life I met during that time, but it was hard and scary a lot of the time.
I mean, yeah. That's kind of the adventuring way. You just throw yourself into danger.
Constantly. But, I mean, my responsibility was to heal and support and protect. So, in a lot of ways, it was a little bit easier for me. I just had to make sure, well, a little bit easier and harder. All I had to do was make sure that all of my friends were okay, which was something I was already kind of good at. But when things were looking not okay, it was stressful.
The added pressure of death.
Yeah, keeping my friends alive was a constant thing I had to worry about, and, being the last line of defense between life and catastrophic death is a bit stressful at times.
Yeah, I can only imagine. But speaking of your friends, you've already mentioned a few people in your party already.
Mm-hmm.
But my next question is, which person in your party, I'm assuming other than your husband, because obviously.
Of course.
Which one in your party or in your current life is closest to you?
Which member of my adventuring party is closest to me? I mean, there are so many people that I'm still in touch with on a
especially
almost
because
weekly basis.
Your party has 16 people in it. One of them's your husband.
There's a lot of us in the mercenary. And there's a lot of people that, we worked together, but we don't really, spend time together or hang out or anything. But, I mean, if I had to pick who was most important to me or who was closest to me, I mean, that's got to be Holly. She's also the leader of a group of people on an island nation directly south of us. The island of Highport, named after the city in the center, though she is the leader of a tribe of villagers in a village called Kilkala. She is...
The faces that are being made.
I love Holly to death. Sometimes me and her butt heads. Definitely in a we have been really good friends for a very long time kind of butting heads, but where I am reserved and patient, she is stalwart and stubborn. She will always charge headlong into danger if it means, well, protecting the things she cares about. I've always admired that about her. She taught me a lot about being brave, being decisive, and she taught me a lot about learning from and owning up to your mistakes. We all made several of them in our adventures. I think some of the ones that she made, she beats herself up for the hardest, but also she taught me how to take a mistake and the aftermath of it with grace. and learn how to, well, solve the problems you make in a way. Me and her still talk all the time. We actually, one of our dearest friends is a sorcerer. Magic in the blood type. Never really learned, but just kind of can snap his fingers and make crazy things happen.
Mm-hmm.
We had him develop a series of teleportation circles. We actually have a hub on our island, and all we have to do is step inside and speak a single command word, and it whisks us away to one of the other circles. And we have a circle that's connected to the village of Calcala. So, me and Holly and my husband and her husband and all of our kids could see each other all the time. We really just have to step in and out. It's like a instant trip.
Very convenient.
It is, especially when you want to stay in touch with your dear friends. There's some people from my group that I feel like I don't get to see very often because we don't have that luxury, but at least when it comes to Calcala and Icewind Dale, the frozen north, we have ways to walk in between. I guess that Icewind Dale, as a segue, that would be my other one. Lundquist and I don't really hang out. He's a dwarven martial artist who traveled with our group. I should mention that Holly she's a huntress, talented archer, and sort of master of the wilds. Whereas Lundquist is a little bit more of an eccentric martial artist type, kind of a goofball to the highest degree, and that's sort of his charm, but he has this sort of fatherly wisdom about him that I always admired. We don't really hang out a lot, but in some of the lowest points in my life, I always knew I could turn to Lundquist, and he'd just give it to me straight, tell me exactly what I needed to know, whether it was what I wanted to hear or not, and help guide me back on the right path. For all of his bullheadedness, he has a lot of wisdom, that one.
I see.
So I think...
Those two?
Yeah. Holly's the one I spend the most time with, but whenever I need him, Lundquist is always there.
Well, that's very sweet. To turn the tables a little bit, though.
Oh, no. I have a feeling this is going to be awkward.
What members of your party do you trust the least?
Oh, no.
I didn't want to go with likes the least, because just because you don't trust them doesn't mean you don't like them.
I mean, I like all of them for different reasons. Oh, boy. Which members of the Wyrmtamers do I trust the least? I'm sorry. Please don't be mad.
I thought you were going to say you couldn't answer the question. I'm like, you don't have to answer all the questions. But...
I guess in a way it kind of has to be Lem, and Unity.
Oh.
They're a married couple.
Mm-hmm.
Lem Ironcloak is the lord of a castle. Comes from a noble family.
Lots of nobles in your group, it seems.
There are. A lot of nobles' lives were affected by the activities of the cult in one way or another. Though, to be fair, some of the nobles were just kind of small island nobles. It's the, ritzy live in a tower types that we ended up meeting later on in our life.
That's
That's Lem. Unity now because of their marriage. And really, I don't have anything personally against them. It's just that Lem and Unity, when it comes to the pet peeves that we talked about earlier, the two of them have sort of somewhat regularly engaged in some of those pet peeves, and it's at times made it difficult for me to... they're going to be so mad if they hear this. It's made it difficult for me to fully trust that they're making the wisest decision in a given situation.
Right.
Lem has definitely gotten himself roped in with some fiendish figures in his life.
I see.
And Unity has a tendency to try to do the right thing, but maybe not for the best reasons, and certainly not by asking people about whether or not she's doing the right thing. There's still well, maybe not still, but there's definitely an emotional wound that was that was caused by one of her decisions that kind of shook my husband up a little bit.
Oh.
I've forgiven her for it, but suffice it to say, she thought she was. I won't go into it too much, but she thought she was helping by bringing someone my husband knew back into his life, but didn't ever stop to ask about why that person wasn't a part of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And she brought him back expecting him to take revenge.
Oh.
Because for some reason, I don't know why you thought this, for some reason she seemed to think that bringing this person back into his life and saying, hey, I brought him for you, now stab him with a knife, was in any way a cathartic emotional experience. It really actually was just traumatic. And Unity, I understand you were trying, but please just, if you're going to try to help someone, ask them how they want to be helped first. Don't just decide.
How did you know I was sending this to every one of the Wyrmtamers?
Oh, I was kind of hoping you weren't, but I guess there's no going back now. So I'm gonna wear that one on my sleeve. I'll handle it like Hollywood. I'll own it. And let me be clear, Lem, Unity, I love you and care about you both very much, but just think before you act.
I was gonna say, I did not say who you don't like the most, I just said who you do not trust as much.
Right. Next question.
Okay. What's most important to you, your health, wealth, or happiness?
Oh. Wow. Well, that's tough. It's kind of hard to imagine life without wealth. I've kind of grown up in it and around it. But I don't know, living the adventuring life, camping in the dirt under rainfall and fighting for your life. In those moments, I don't think my tower or the coins in my coffers really, well, honestly, meant a damn. So, I guess in a way I'm kind of inclined to say that, but I don't think that's right. I think I could do without my wealth. And being happy is important. I just don't think it's as important as my health and the health of my loved ones. As a priestess and a healer, it's kind of always been my responsibility to make sure that everybody's doing okay and that everyone's taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot about healing people's physical health through my adventuring, but I also learned a lot about people's emotional health. Being able to go to someone and help them through a problem they're having, to be a support for them. That's something that I value in myself, my ability to lend an ear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I value my friend group the most for, is the fact that we're all kind of, even in our worst moments, we're all there for each other. Emotional health, I think, kind of puts it over the end. If you don't have, I think happiness is important, but you can be happy without wealth. I don't necessarily think you can be happy without your health.
Well, I was going to say, it honestly kind of feels like cheating, but if you're mentally and physically wealthy. Yeah, if you're mentally and physically wealthy, you're happy.
Sure. I think so. So I think when it comes down to it, I think health is the most important.
That's fair.
I guess it's kind of a cliched answer for a healer, but
it's still fair. Fair enough. So, what is your greatest fear?
oh,
I should have asked this one earlier on.
We're getting really existential, aren't we? I don't know. I kind of have already faced a lot of pretty great fears.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come out the other end. But, I mean...
And obviously it's not the ocean.
No, certainly not. Well, I'm 40 now, and motherhood has taught me a lot. I guess my greatest fear is that... I guess my greatest fear is my daughters growing up feeling like they can't be who they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want... More than anything, I kind of live for them now.
Naturally.
I just... More than anything, I want them to be happy, and I think the thing that would make me the most afraid is the idea that something bad would happen to them, or that something would take them away from me, or that they wouldn't get to live the life I know that they're destined to live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just if anything were to happen to my babies, that would be it.
Well, luckily enough, nothing has.
Right, crossing my fingers, hoping for the best.
Next one.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you feel the most at home besides your actual home?
Oh, there's so many places that are like a home away from home. Lonelywood, a small village in Icewind Dale. Kelkala, especially. But really, I guess our home away from home would be the Worm Hall.
Mm-hmm.
We have a guild house. I should probably have mentioned this earlier. When you have like 16 people that are all mercenaries that have to kind of be working together under one roof, you kind of need a place to operate.
Uh-huh.
So Holly actually hired a bunch of people, and with the help of some of the other members of our group, but I think it was mostly her, built us basically a guild hall. We all have our own rooms. We have a kitchen and a professional chef. We have a tailor.
Ooh.
We have a whole yard. It's on the outskirts of the city of Waterdeep, basically the largest city on the Sword Coast, and not a terribly long boat ride away from us. Yeah, that
close to Phandalin, as far as I'm aware.
Relatively. It's, I mean, a decent bit south. If you were to take a caravan, it's probably several weeks, but on horseback, it's a little bit faster. All those things are kind of connected, but the Wormhall is kind of like a central hub. If I was ever going to leave the islands and go back to the coast and go meet all the people over there, I'd go to the Wormhall first. It's sort of like I never really had this experience, but Holly has talked to me about it a lot. Are you familiar with the concept of a tree house?
Yes.
We have trees, but a lot of them are used for lumber shipping, so we don't really have a lot of time to frolic in trees. But they live in a forest, so they definitely do. They used to, as kids, build houses in the treetops, and kind of like build their own fort up there. It's kind of what it is for us, except, we're all adults with superpowers.
And this house is on the ground?
It is on the ground. There's like a little bit of a raise. It's on like a slight hill, but we're talking like a couple foot high hill. Nothing crazy.
I see.
But yeah, that's where all of us go. We meet up there from time to time. We have an entire like dessert menu with a bunch of desserts that are named after us and
Very
themed
fun.
around us. So it's always a nice place to go and blow off some steam and spend time with your friends.
Sounds like enough of a home away from home if there was to be one.
Yeah, to say the least. It's a very fun place. It's like our little slice of the world that all of us get to share.
So you've talked a lot about being a healer and destiny.
Yeah, to say the least.
I was curious about what your relationship with magic is.
Oh, yeah, so this is a good opportunity to explain all of this. The way that we were able to, when we were captured by pirates and then shipwrecked in the very beginning of our time together, my time with the Wyrmtamers, we ended up on this ransacked island with a bunch of goblin pirates and orc pirates and the pirates who kidnapped us, but kind of only a couple of them. Most of them died in the collision. We were lucky enough because we were below deck, so we weren't thrown off board when we hit the rocky shore. But we ended up having to navigate through that island by ourselves, and eventually were lucky enough to be able to find a shrine where we were able to rest. There was an undead monster, a ghoul, that lived in the shrine, and it was a close call, but we were able to fight it off and destroy it. And once we did so, the statue of the goddess that watched over the shrine spoke to us. She promised us a way off of the island, but in exchange, one of us would have to sort of swear service to her. And long story short, that's how I became a priestess of Timora, the goddess of luck. And, well, I definitely feel lucky. She's guided me through a lot of my adventures, and whenever I don't know what to do, I always feel like I can flip a coin and make a decision. Her worship is, in a way, my relationship with magic. By opening up my heart to her and kind of following Timora's guidance, slowly but surely I started to develop more and more powers. It started with the simple things. Healing. Making shields around my friends when things were going to hurt them. Blessing my companions with good luck and good fortune to help them with the things they were trying to do. Then it started to get a little crazier. Blessings that would allow me to turn myself invisible for my friends, hide ourselves in shadows, charm people, and convince them to do things, which I don't really love to do, but it was something sometimes I had to do in an emergency. The ability to cascade light that destroyed undead and monsters. The ability to conjure spirits to defend me. And even in my later years, teleport, shield my companions for death, and even bring people back from death. I also, I don't understand why Timora's blessings work in this way, but I can also create a localized earthquake. I learned I could do that the hard way. Sometimes these blessings manifest in very strange ways, but
I was gonna say, it seems kind of out there, as opposed to the healing and reviving and the...
Timora works in mysterious ways. Sometimes there's good luck and sometimes there's bad luck.
I see.
And sometimes you make your own luck. Like when I placed my hands on the ground and
made an earthquake.
made a earthquake on an island.
I was gonna say, you gotta be careful with that on an island.
It was a little crazy, yeah, but now I know I can do that. To be mindful of it for the future.
Don't sink in the island nations.
Oh, one of the things that Timora lets me do is shape-shifting. I don't really understand. Goddesses are incredible in a lot of ways. They can kind of bend the laws of reality to their will. But mostly I would use it to turn my friends into animals and especially turn my dear friend Kellen into a giant jungle lizard.
Oh?
Yeah, we have a word for them. I don't know if you have a word. Dinosaurs?
T-Rex?
Yeah, that's the colloquial term for it, the fancy term for it, I suppose I should say. But yeah, I guess at first when I first got these powers, I didn't really know what to do with them. I had never had abilities before. I kind of just knew how to sail and could swing a sword.
Right.
Moderately well. In a weird way, I was kind of terrified of it at first, but I've grown to understand that while magic can sometimes be scary, it's also a blessing. wielded properly, you can use it to protect the people you care about, and that's what's important to me. I've become an archpriestess or a high priestess after banishing a dark god. Timora kind of, I can communicate with her from time to time, and this is one of those situations where she basically said to me, you are someone who can turn the tides of fate and luck in the favor of good. And in a way, I kind of serve as, I guess, Timora's mouthpiece in the world. One of them. There are plenty of other priests. I'm certainly not the only priestess of the goddess of luck, but I'm one that has a lot of influence, for better or for worse.
I see. And seeing as you have so much structure...
There's a lot of it. It's a regimented life for a leader of a nation.
What is your guiltiest pleasure?
Oh, no. What's my guiltiest pleasure? Ooh.
Like a real guilty pleasure, not like, at midnight sometimes I eat a cookie. Like something...
I have one.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know if it's really that guilty of a pleasure. It might be a little bit mundane, but everyone's going to hear about this. You know what? That's okay. I mean, they've seen worse from me, so.
I feel as long as your guilty pleasure isn't resurrecting an evil god, then you're fine.
No, it's not anything like that. It's just more of like a personally embarrassing thing, I guess.
That's fair. That's why it's a guilty pleasure. You feel guilty about it.
In my later years, having access to cities like Waterdeep and like the Library of Candlekeep, which is a place that some of our group went to, and I've sort of developed a fascination with books and reading.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of free time, but when I do, it's harder for me to get away from the island since my attention is needed on a lot of things, and I'll have to go out to the island or stay on the island instead of going out onto the sea and meditating or reflecting on the world from the ocean like I like to do. So I've taken to reading, and romance novels are very quick and easy to read, which works so well with my time frame, well, I guess I'm kind of a little bit of a sucker for a love story.
You like romance novels?
Yeah, not like the really cheesy or like sultry ones.
Right, not those like the ones with the weird, like shirtless dudes holding like the damsel in distress wearing a curtain kind of ones.
Yeah, that's not really my thing. I like a sweet, wholesome romance novel. Especially like the romance novels where they start off and it's this plucky, energetic young princess or noble woman, and she meets this troublemaking bad boy who doesn't seem to want to give her the time of day, but slowly but surely she melts his icy heart. And
I see.
We can move on.
You like reading enemies to lovers fan fiction that's basically your childhood.
Is that the term? It's basically my childhood. Hold on. Slow down. You might be moving a little too fast on that one.
Oh no.
Anyway, what more do you have for me?
I was gonna say, okay, next question. We can go to the next question.
Thank you.
Is it hot here or is it just me?
It's feeling a little warm, yeah. I can feel the sweat gathering. Maybe it's just the old age. But...
No. What advice would you give to a younger version of yourself?
What advice would I give to my younger version of myself? Trust yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about the mistakes that you make, because you can always solve them. Don't worry about feeling like you're lost and like you're never going to find anything more than the simple life you have. Adventure's just around the corner. And it's a lot more than you expected it to be. When I was younger, I always was craving adventure. I wanted to go do something spontaneous, to do something crazy, and I got my wish, and I wouldn't trade it for the world, but it was a lot more than I bargained for. Now I think I just want a simple, quiet life.
After doing it, you're like, yeah, I could just take a nap for the next 15 years.
For sure. I think that, yeah, basically the best advice I could give to a younger me is trust yourself and don't worry so much about adventuring. You'll find your time.
It'll get here. Maybe give her some of those pointers from those books. I'm bringing it back.
Oh, no. This is going to be every question from now on.
No,
sure.
It won't.
I'll hold you to it.
In your opinion, what was the biggest mistake you ever made in life?
Ooh. Are these questions getting harder?
They're getting more in-depth.
Oh, okay. It's the biggest mistake I've
There's
ever...
only 3 more after this, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're really in the hard-hitting questions, huh? It's the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, I guess.
Yeah, what was your biggest oopsie?
I've made a lot of small mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
They were things that I was able to fix. Sometimes relatively quickly. But I guess the biggest mistake that I made was when my friends called out after we had gone back and I had gotten married and had a child. A bunch of my friends contacted me again and said that there was some strange activity. They said that it might have been related to something along the lines of that dragon we dealt with, and they wanted to go check it out. I was very busy with a lot of things going on at home, and I knew that they were capable. And honestly, from the sound of it, it just seemed like it was half a quest and half a reason to kind of just come and see each other again.
Get the group back together.
Yeah. I didn't know if I was fully ready to commit to adventuring again, and I intended to join them later if they were still palling around, but once I had gotten things done, so just to help them, I sent Kellen. Little did I know that they all started, well, unraveling a myriad of dark plots and chasing a dragon cult around the Sword Coast. At some point during one of their most dangerous missions, I didn't find out till much later, Holly was actually killed.
Oh.
They infiltrated a castle and she wandered off to one side while some other members of the group went to another way, and she found herself trapped in a pit with a very large monster, and she's a badass and tough as nails, but it was bigger, and she wasn't quite as experienced as she is now. It ended up goring her, I guess, and it was only by some sheer stroke of luck that members of the group were able to find her, and thankfully they had another priest with them, a traveling dragon born by the name of Barash, who was able to bring her back to life, thankfully, but I don't know. I don't know if she knows that I really beat myself up for it, but hearing about that, knowing that I subjected my teenage ward and friend to watching a companion of ours die when it should have been me who was there helping her and protecting her. I always feel guilty for that.
I mean, you probably couldn't have known. You thought they were...
I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but I should have known my friends better.
Right.
They have a knack for getting themselves into trouble. The second there was a wind of a dragon within a 30-mile radius of where they were going to be, they were off to the races. I should have been there with them, I guess. In retrospect, not really a big deal. I think we ended up alive and safe and settled into our lives, but it definitely could have gone a different way, and I don't know if I would have forgiven myself for it if she had died and I could have done something about it.
Assuming you probably won't just figure they're crying wolf again in the future.
That is assuming, yeah. I think that lesson kind of sobered me in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they need me, I'll be there. I like to think I would be there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be there.
Well, then, going and flipping the question, what do you think your greatest achievement is?
I mean, besides banishing a god from the material
Besides
plane.
the obvious.
What's my greatest achievement in life?
Like, besides children, obviously also, because they're very big achievements.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
If we're going to exclude the god, then we're going to exclude the obvious.
It's the greatest achievement that I've ever made in life. I guess that's kind of a cheesy answer. But I think the greatest thing that I've ever done was build myself a new family.
Mm-hmm.
And not just my family, but my friends' family, too. If I hadn't made the series of decisions that I did, I wouldn't have ended up on that island that day.
Mm-hmm.
And without that island, I wouldn't have become a priestess to Timora. Without her, I wouldn't have been strong enough to go on these adventures. And without the adventures, I wouldn't have met some of the bravest and, frankly, coolest people I've ever known in my life.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a snowball effect.
We all have been through a number of hardships. We've seen loved ones die. We've seen dear friends struggle against a myriad of hardships. But we were all there for each other when it happened. I think the best thing I could have ever asked for in life, and the thing I'm the proudest of, is building what we built. All of us together.
Family forged in fire.
Yeah.
Through trauma.
Yeah, there's no small amount of trauma, but is it weird to say that it kind of made us stronger people?
No.
Yeah. My found family. I think that's the thing at least that's the achievement I'm proudest of.
Besides the obvious.
Besides saving the world.
If you could know one thing about the future, what would you want to know?
If I could know anything about the future?
One thing about the future, anything.
Wow. I mean, it's weird because I know I still have so much more to do in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But with everything that's happened, I feel like the craziest part of my life has passed. This is retirement.
It's your golden years.
Yeah. So when I was 18, that was when all of my adventures started.
Mm-hmm.
My eldest daughter's 18 now.
Mm-hmm.
If I could know anything about the future, I'd want to know, I guess, what does life have in store for Arya and Senna? What is Ventris going to look like when Arya sits in the same seat that I sit in at the council? When she's in charge and I'm knitting in my rocking chair with the sea breeze whipping through my graying hair, what is her world going to look like? I want to know. If I can only know one thing, I want to know, are my daughters happy? My friends, too. Maybe it's a little greedy to want to know if everybody's happy, but
I'm sure you'll be able to gauge everybody in your own time, but knowing about your kids for the future is a good use of the one.
I guess the easiest way to put it is, if I could know one thing about the future, I'd want to know what makes my loved ones happy. What will make my loved ones the happiest,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can spend these years of my life helping them work towards it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, we're on our last question.
Oh boy.
If you were granted one single limitless wish, what would you use it for?
Oh, wow. See, this is a little bit of a weird question because, well, one of our friends actually is capable of granting wishes.
I am aware, but this one is a limitless wish.
That's the key.
No flaws, no backfires, no weird interpretations to your wording. One single limitless wish. Your intention with it is known and it's done.
If I could have one single, unrestricted, limited wish, what would I do with it? Well, I mean, I guess I could just be simple and say I'd want my loved ones to be happy. But that's nebulous. What does that mean? I don't know what it means. That's why I'd want to know what the future looks like for them, so I can find it. But I don't think that's something I can will into existence.
Right, you'd want the first question before the second question, but
and plus, like, what does that even mean too? Like, I mean, I'm happy now, but there were some really, really hard parts of my life. There were some challenges that I had to go through even before adventuring, let alone the adventuring part of my life. So the concept of happy as a constant is kind of nebulous. So what would I do? I think I know.
Okay.
Right now I'm happy.
Right.
I have my husband, I have my children, all my loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago, there was an accident.
Okay.
No one really quite knows exactly what happened, but Holly, her husband, one of our dearest friends and companions in the Wyrmtamers, actually my husband's best friend and sort of alchemy buddy. They do science together. You couldn't explain it to me if you tried, but they're very good at it. He actually was killed fighting some creature. There's a lot of monsters that live in their woods. That one is, it's questionable where it came from, and we struggled to find out exactly what went after him and their daughter, who was there with him and he protected. But when he passed, even despite all the blessings of Timora that I'm capable of, I couldn't call his soul back to his body. We tried desperately, but he was gone. Never forget the look on her face and the look on my husband's face for months, years after he passed. It was like losing a brother, you know? I couldn't imagine what it was like for her. So if there were no restrictions, I guess I would just want Asher back. I'm happy. My life is good. There's not a lot that I would really change about it. So, with that understood, why wouldn't I use my wish for someone else? To give her her soulmate back, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I would do with it.
It's a very noble use of a wish.
I appreciate it, but, I mean, what could I do? Something selfish. I want a really big boat. I want.
I'm not critiquing your wish.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is it like the only thing I could really spend it on for myself and my children is just something selfish.
Unlimited romance novels. Sorry, not bringing it back anymore.
I could, yeah, but I don't need it. Me and my family are happy. We're okay. We can anything that we need, we can get. That's something that my dearest friend can't. So, to me, there's no other choice.
Well, here's to hoping you get the wish then.
Yeah. It's definitely a dream. I wish it's doable, but I didn't mean to end your interview on a really somber note, but I feel like that's a pretty deep question. You know?
I was going to say, it's a deep question. How many people are going to end this conversation with, I want gummy bears for my unlimited wish?
Somebody who's got everything they need in order, I guess.
I mean, you do, and you already picked it for something bonkers.
Somebody who has everything in order and not very many friends.
There you go. I was going to make a mean comment. I won't.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah.
Well, I guess...
Thank you for coming and interviewing
Yeah,
us.
I was going to say, I appreciate the opportunity. It's not often that I get a chance to really sit down and speak about my experiences and some of the things that interest me, so this was nice. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Well,
we'll have to either have you back when I have a new list of questions after I've made the rounds, or
oh goodness.
After I've made the rounds, it'll be a while from now. Or we'll have to say hi to you after we have Luciano on here.
Oh boy, yeah, I'm sure his answers will be absolutely riveting.
Oh, I'm sure.
If you want to talk about a personality shift between me and him, he is a charmer, but whew, can he be a lot sometimes. Love that man to death. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I want to say best of luck. I hope that whoever you have listening to this enjoyed it. I hope I was entertaining to some of you. But yeah, have a great day.
You too. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course. I'll just that's the way. Okay, cool. I'll go.
Send Ken back in when you leave.
Okay. All good?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, how did it go?
Good.
Excellent. Yeah, she's a fun one.
I think she thought I was making fun of her for a lot of the questions.
Yeah, I can see that. She's definitely from amongst my characters, she is definitely someone who has a lot of deep-seated anxieties that she doesn't let out. She probably, I guarantee you, she spent most of that interview just thinking about how, I hope I'm interesting. I hope they think I'm fun. Yeah.
Girl, same. I only slept for 4 hours last night. I was exhausted through that whole thing.
Oh, no. I'm sure she did plenty of talking. If you get her going, she's a bit of a chatterbox.
I can't wait. Once I interview Luciano, I can just sleep.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, that one's a fun adventure. Well, all right. So, yeah, that was our interview with our characters. The first of possibly very many, if you guys enjoyed it. Is there anything that you want to add on to the end of this before we close out the episode?
The only thing that I could potentially put on is that I obviously have some people I want to interview next, and not everybody knows all of our characters.
True.
But for anyone that's listened to our podcasts previous that described all of them, either Out of the Abyss or the Wyrmtamers. We also have another campaign we haven't talked about that I could do people from. But
oh, that's true. That's true.
The only person that'd be able to weigh in on that one is Kyle, our lovely listener.
Yeah.
Who's going to be trashing us in the comments.
Oh, of course he is. Yeah, literally, like.
I can already.
Spoiler alert! I know all the answers. Literally, Melisana's like, who do you not trust? Unity. He's gonna have a fucking shit show. He's gonna lose his mind. Unity is his baby.
I already feel the Unity did nothing.
Yeah, no, I can literally like.
I bet you he already typed it, and now
I see the hashtag. I see that. No, the comment has already been posted when that question came up, and now he's listening to this part and laughing. So shout out to you, Kyle.
Love
you either
Kyle.
listen to this part and laughing, or he's listening to this part and seething.
Yeah.
It's one of the two.
He's either laughing,
or a comfortable in between.
He's either at this part laughing because we're talking about it now,
True.
or he's at this part and now he's typing another comment going "fuck you guys."
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
But I didn't even finish my thought.
Oh yeah, what was your thought?
You should write who you want me to interview next.
Oh yeah, if any of our listeners are interested in particular to any of the characters, the only downside is that characters that still give your suggestions, but characters that aren't necessarily played by Hannah or myself would
be a little harder for us.
Yeah, it would require us to, at the very least, get a guest, and with scheduling and with a pandemic going on, it's not exactly the easiest thing in the world.
Well, what I was literally going to say was, leave your comments on who you want me to interview next. It may not be very next, but if it's somebody that I'm interested in getting, even if it's not you or me, then we can start working it out with people. If people really want a Lem interview, we can start talking to Ryan.
Maybe we can make that happen.
Then if we don't, we don't. But if we do, we can.
Yeah. So if you have any particular characters you are interested in hearing about, feel free to let us know in the comments.
And then they'll find their way shuffled to the top. We're near the top.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, thank you as always for listening. We hope you enjoyed this little series. We have plenty of more fun content coming for you in the coming weeks. As for, I forgot we didn't really do it in the last episode, but we should probably tease.
Oh, the tease. That's yours.
Yeah, you don't know anything about this one. We haven't talked about this upcoming topic, but for the next one, we're going to stick with nerdy topics. We're gonna take a little detour away from Dungeons and Dragons and our tabletop role playing games. And we're gonna go and how much do I want to give away? We're gonna do a little brainstorming. About Pokemon.
All right.
Next week. I'm not gonna explain too much of that. You'll see next week. But yeah, we're gonna do me and you together are going to do a little brainstorming. We're going to see if we can come up with some cool stuff.
Okay.
It'll make more sense later. But yeah, so if you're next week, if you're listening and you are and you're a Pokemon fan, or if you're not a Pokemon fan and you just want to hear us talk about weird stuff,
Garrett.
Yeah, check out next week. As always, thank you so much for listening. We love and appreciate you very much.
Love you very much. We'll see you later. Bye.
Take care. Bye.